What's happening, everybody, and welcome to Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare provider of SU Athletics. Brent and Mike Waters here to discuss the first official win of the Adrian Autry era. The Orange, a little closer than some people thought at the JMA Wireless Dome, maybe coming in, but a win is a win, 83-72. And Mike, the Orange celebrated this one. No rest for the weary. They got a game Wednesday, so no big celebrations planned. Coach Autry said, I'm just going to go home, spend some time with some family, and then get back at it and get ready for Canisius on Wednesday. But the Orange did celebrate, and there's a video of this out there that you can check out by giving Coach Autry the water celebration in the locker room after the game. So, We've talked so much about it, Mike, and I think because we've written about it and talked about it so much and we've anticipated this moment so much, had a couple exhibition games, I don't know. I never looked over there once and said, where's Jim Boeheim? I'm just so used to the Autry thing at this point. I don't know. It just never really occurred to me oh, it's weird not seeing the Hall of Famer out there. What felt different to you, if anything, tonight?
Kind of like you said, I think we got some of that – the odd feeling out in the exhibitions and Orange Madness. It still hit a little different to see Adrian Autry be the one to come out of the tunnel last, with about 2 minutes before opening tip. That was always Boeheim time. It still is a little bit weird for me in the post-game press conferences, addressing Adrian and instead of Jim. That's going to take some time, but fans aren't really part of that. That's a press conference deal. But the one time I remember thinking oh wow, Adrian Autry's coaching is when New Hampshire cut it. I think, they started trimming that lead down early in the second half, and we had gone under the 16-minute mark. There should be immediate timeout soon, but New Hampshire had scored a few points. They got it down to 6.
Yeah.
And Adrian called his first timeout ever as a head coach. He called a timeout, and that's when you've moved from that assistant chair 12 inches over to the head coach's chair. And now, your thoughts and ideas are suggestions as an assistant, but as the head coach, it's a choice. You make those decisions. So he called a timeout. I actually wrote that in the little notes that I was taking that, Autry just called his first ever timeout. So I don't know. Not that
that was a good moment.
Usual, yeah. But, we're going to mark some of those things as the season goes along.
Oh, for sure. And that did feel like that first real coaching moment because you don't really get that in exhibition play. You're messing around with lineups and, seeing them over there, getting used to that was one thing. But, especially, Mike, in a moment in a game where it's okay, New Hampshire is getting back in this thing and what do you do about it? And Autry even came into the post-game press conference and at one point said, thank goodness for the 2-3 zone. And we saw that tonight, Mike. This team went back and forth between man-to-man, zone. They played a little press when needed, right? Judah Mintz did lead the way for Syracuse with 20 points. We'll talk about him. Justin Taylor had a terrific game for Syracuse, and he addresses a real need for this team at this point. But I think the defense did kind of take the lead in terms of what we were watching when they went man, when they went zone. I was talking to Quadir Copen in the locker room afterwards, Mike, and he referenced, one time where they were in man and New Hampshire had to adjust to that. They go into a timeout, they come out, they're in zone, and then 2 possessions later, they're back in the man, flipping it all over the place. Naheem McLeod in for certain parts of the defense, Malik Brown in for others. Autry played 9 guys tonight. It probably would have been 10 had Benny Williams been available, which he was not again. And we'll give a short update on that a little bit later on here because Adrian Autry had a one-word answer when it came to the status of Benny Williams at this point. But there it was in game 1, Mike, not only seeing the different defenses used, but Autry had to make that adjustment based on how good New Hampshire was playing and how they closed in on this thing. Syracuse was up at one point 32-9. They go into halftime up 44-32. And New Hampshire won the second half. They kept it close in the second half. They kind of settled down for a while there. What did New Hampshire do to stay in this game? How were they able to make everybody nervous on Autrey's opening night?
I thought New Hampshire started the game a little nervous themselves. They missed their first 9 3-pointers. After that, they started finding better shots. They took their time. After missing those 9 3-pointers, they started making a bunch. Closed the first half well, steadied themselves. They were shooting it, they were getting good shots even against the man. You mentioned Adrian, goes to that 2-3 zone. There were really 2 major factors as to why he played 2-3 zone. One, when he had Naheem McLeod in there, in the man-to-man, he was having to guard a 6'8" guy. Now at 7'4", it's really tough to chase a 6'8" guy around, and that guy was comfortable going out on the perimeter, where Naheem's going to have a tough time of it out there, especially when he feels like he's got to go out to guard the guy. Now, if some other team later in the season wants to pull their 6'11", 6'10" center out where that guy's not a threat, that's fine. Naheem just won't go out, and they can stay in man-to-man, and Naheem just won't worry about a guy. Now, but they had to take – when he was in the game, they started going 2-3 zone just to help Naheem stay on the floor and play defense then. But as the game went along and Judah Mintz got himself into foul trouble, he had 3 fouls in the first half, picked up an early, 4th foul early in the second half. So when he was back out on the floor, Adrian said he felt like he kind of needed to go zone just to make sure Judah didn't pick up another cheap one along the way. He needed him out there on the floor. Of course, Kyle Cuff Jr. in for Judah. He ends up with 4 fouls. So he's out there playing for a while with 4. So yeah, they had to go to that 2-3 zone mainly to protect some guys from foul trouble. And then at other times of the game, they did it to kind of protect Naheem in a man-to-man, from getting exposed in man-to-man.
And whether it was zone or man, and our colleague Donna Dotota wrote about this in her quick hits, chasing down the corner 3-point shooter. That was an issue again. That looked familiar no matter what defense they were in there. So, Mike, defense, certainly something this team's got to work on. At least they've got all these in their back pocket, and they can kind of switch them up pretty quickly. The 3-point line in general on the offensive end, we came in with some questions. It is only game 1, and we'll see how this develops, but I still think we've got some questions there. Justin Taylor to the rescue, though. He hit some big shots in the second half, one from the top of the key at the 3-point line, showed off some other parts of his game out there, but so far, and you did a good job laying this out, we did a Syracuse Sports podcast where we laid out the 5 questions that are going to define this season. And Mike, you were pretty high on Justin Taylor and how his game has evolved. And right here in game 1, he had to step up in that department because outside shooting is still a big question mark for this team.
It really is. And really nobody besides Justin has shot the ball really well from 3-point range so far. You expect Chris Bell to. He hasn't, though. And tonight he goes 1 for 5 from 3-point range. And it's not like he's taking tough threes. He's getting good looks. Judah Mintz isn't shooting the ball well from outside. Neither is J.J. Starling. The starting backcourt tonight went 1 for 8 combined from 3-point range. And again, they expect them to shoot it better. Now, J.J. and Judah, neither one's Joe Girard. They're not going to be like that, but you still hope that they shoot it better than 1 for 8 combined. So, yeah, Justin Taylor, though, he hits the 2 big threes in the second half. Both of them came at junctures where New Hampshire had closed the gap. He hit that one really pretty one, basically on a pick and roll or a slip screen where he's, turned and it was right at the top of the key. It's kind of a move I've seen Cole Swider make a couple years ago. Asked Justin about that after the game, and he said, yeah, it's not like a new move or anything out there. And it is something like you've seen, a Cole Swider, one of their other forwards, set kind of a screen and then slip right through it and turn and from the top of the key. He made that, and as he got fouled, it was a really critical 4-point play for the Orange. I think at that point, New Hampshire had cut it to I know it was under 10. They was in single digits, and it was a big shot. And then he had another big one a few minutes later. Without him, boy, the Orange is really hurting from 3-point range. Some of these guys really got to get going.
Yeah, 5 of 21 overall tonight. Bernie notes it here in the comments, Mike. Joe Girard, you brought him up. He was 1 for 4 tonight for Clemson. He only had 3
Oh, I
points in
know.
his
I've already
debut.
looked.
I knew you would have for the Tigers. So, yeah, it's early, and we'll see how he gets in the flow down there. But that was something there. And Judah, at times, Mike, there were a couple times you and I kind of turned to each other and said, that's not the shot. He's got a green light. Adrian wants him to create. There's times he's got to learn not to take on double teams. His outside shot is better, but it's got to be a good shot from the outside, right? And all this will come. It's game one, shaking some things off here, but there's not a lot of time in a sense, Mike, that you've got to make smart decisions and learn on the fly. You've got Canisius Wednesday, another team that Syracuse should handle, and then you get Colgate, a team that loves to shoot threes and obviously has beaten Syracuse twice in a row, and then you're going to Maui. So game on. Like, they're really learning here in the Fire with a challenging schedule up ahead and not a lot of time to work on these flaws and the flaws that we saw, not only in this matchup, but maybe a couple in the exhibition games as well. So the free throw line came into play, Mike. How did Syracuse manage to kind of stay in this one, even though they had a couple of gaps, 4 or 5 minutes where they didn't go scoring? New Hampshire trying to stay in it as best as they could. The free throw line, 22 of 27, Syracuse was. So our first free throws matter of the year. It almost felt like a strategy at times, right? You have guys that can get there, that can draw fouls, and have a pretty good percentage there. And I think this is certainly going to be another thing we're going to come back to time after time, that if they can't hit these threes, it's going to be crucial to be big, to draw fouls, and to make those free throws.
Yes, just as he did in the recent exhibition and against College of St. Rose, Judah Mintz drove, got fouled, got himself to the free throw line. When his shot wasn't dropping from the field, he knows he's got to go in and draw contact and try to get himself to the line. Now, some of the times when he was doing it, I didn't think it was the greatest looking drive in the world. I don't know if that's going to work against better competition, bigger guards who don't have to struggle to guard him in there. Maybe teams that have bigs who can offer better help. So when you draw, we'll see if that's there. But tonight, he really helped himself by getting to the line. He goes 9 of 11. It's really interesting. A guy can be struggling with his outside shot, his jumper, but he gets himself to the line and everything settles down and he's got good form and he can convert. He makes the other team pay for sending him there. Without Syracuse making 80% of its shots as a team, this would have been a real white knuckler coming down the end. But those making those free throws really helped them. They outscored New Hampshire by 8 at the line. In a game they won by 11. So that was really the difference.
A couple more things here, Mike. No Benny Williams tonight. Donna asked about it in post game, and Adrian had a one-word answer for that inquiry, and that answer was no.
Yeah, the inquiry was any update on Benny,
and the answer was no. So we'll see if he's in there Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's been 2 games now. We don't really have anything more to share as to why the suspension has happened. I'm sure that will be discussed when he does come back. So we'll keep an eye on that. And we noted it. They played 9 guys. He would have been the 10th out there. Anything that Benny's game brings that Syracuse could have needed tonight? Is this something where, the clock kind of ticking, no matter what the suspension is for, that, Syracuse is really going to need Benny back in a flow, as we mentioned, with that tough schedule just around the corner here?
You would hope you'd be okay, without him against Canisius. Colgate, I don't know exactly yet how good or what they're going to bring. I'd like to have him for them after losing to Colgate for 2 years in a row. But more than anything else, you need Benny to get back out on the court once or twice, just for his own sake, to get going before you hit Hawaii.
Definitely.
And that's assuming this suspension is lifted by then. We don't know. They're not saying that he's been suspended for 1 game, 2 games, 5 games. It's an indefinite thing. So, and we don't know. A lot of times a coach will tell a player, listen, you're suspended until you complete X, Y, or Z. And, we don't know exactly. So, but, hoping that he's back by the trip to Hawaii, I think it would be really beneficial to Benny to be on the floor a few times here against Canisius and Colgate before having to go out and jump ball against Tennessee, which, by the way, looks really good.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, Mike, any other opening night observations, things that you noticed that we haven't discussed yet? I saw John Wallace and Lawrence Moten were there, and they posed courtside with a nice photo with Eric Devendorf, who was on the TV call tonight. You took a nice photo there. You've got something coming here. I don't know if we want to spoil it here on the podcast. Maybe a little tease for people that want to check this out. Mike had a fun angle in exploring something that Adrian Autry's family was a part of this one. And Adrian mentioned in a postgame that his dad was there, and that's something that I know that you kind of focused on. So we're looking forward to reading about that.
Yep. Adrian's father was at the game. So we're going to examine, the whole dynamic between father and son. And I've talked with Adrian and his dad leading up to Monday night's game, knowing that he was going to be there. And, it's a real interesting relationship. I really appreciate the both of them, opening up, talking a little bit about it. And the fact that, Adrian's dad was there, I think had to be really special. It was special because Adrian mentioned it briefly in the post-game comments. But, and the other thing, too, is interesting about Adrian tonight is there was another Autrey making a college debut. It was tough for the Autrey family tonight. Adrian's son, Trey, freshman at George Washington University, played in his first college game tonight. George Washington won. They handled Stonehill down in the nation's capital. Trey Autrey got a starting assignment for George Washington.
All right.
He was in the starting lineup, but it was tough. I talked with Adrian's wife, Andrea, after the game, and she said it was a really difficult night for her because she was watching the Syracuse game, but on her phone, she was trying to watch Trey, the game down there. But Trey's older brother, Adrian Jr., Syracuse fans will remember Adrian Jr. was a walk-on at Syracuse a few years back. He went down. He was watching his younger brother. So
good.
The younger brother had family in attendance. Yeah, he had grandparents on Andrea's side of the family there. So it was a heck of a night for the Autreys.
It sure was. Celebrations all around, but as Adrian noted in the post-game press conference, they're back at it Wednesday. That's when we'll be back at it here. And just so you guys know, watching, myself, Mike Waters, Donna DeToda, maybe we'll let Chris Carlson in once in a while. We are going to be doing this after every game. If you've been following along for football, Emily Leiker and I have been doing live post games here. So the thing you want to look for is here, if you're watching on Facebook, Syracuse Orange Basketball at syracuse.com on Facebook, our Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page, my Twitter page at Brent Axe Media. If you do miss it live, though, no worries, kids. We've got you on YouTube. We've got you on Spotify. We've got you on Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the Syracuse Sports Feed. Yeah, that's a lot there, Mike. Just do one. That's all you can handle. It's just one. Just pick one and stick with it, and pick your favorite. And we got you covered for the podcast, right? So if you can't catch us live, catch us there. And I want to tell our friends that are watching here about our voicemail line. So put this in your phone, and if you want to ask us a question on post-game, something that you're just burning a hole in your pocket, you're watching the game, you want to tell us about it, our voicemail line's always open for you, 315-552-1964. We've been having a lot of fun with that on the football post games. People have been venting a little about football, Mike, as of late. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Really?
People a little fired up about what's going on.
Wow.
With a team on a 5-game losing streak and a coach on the hot seat. So we're here for you. We're here for you. Call the voicemail, 315-552-1964. Michael, thank you. Looking forward to doing this throughout the year. Looking forward to reading all your coverage, of course, from this one and the story about Adrian and his dad and just everything to come here. One down and many to go, but tonight a special night, the first win in the Adrian Autry era. And this has been Syracuse Basketball Postgame. Thank you, Mike. Thanks to everybody that watched and listened tonight out there. It's been presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare provider of SU Athletics. We'll catch you next time, guys.